I will ask basic some questions. Try to answer those questions. So, is Snowflake is OLTP or OLAP? Can
OLAP.
text in OLAP. Okay. So, how many editions in the Snowflake?
4.
Tell those editions.
Standard, Enterprise, Business, and VPA. Virtual Private Snowflake.
VPS.
Yeah,
Okay.
VPS.
How many layers in the Snowflake? How many layers are Snowflake architecture? What is Snowflake architecture? How many layers? Venkatesh Koteshwara, how many layers in the Snowflake? What is the Snowflake architecture?
Three, Madhu, created layer.
Okay. So database storage layer, query processing layer, and cloud service layer. I'm asking about Snowflake architecture. So not about Snowflake project architecture. Project architecture, then we need to go raw layer, staging layer, curated layer. Snowflake architecture, database storage layer, compute layer, query processing layer. So is Snowflake supports to indexes?
No.
No,
So instead of indexes, what you have?
Micro partitioners and clusters. Cluster key.
Cluster key. Okay. So what is the limit of apply cluster key in table? How many cluster keys we can apply on table?
100.
Come again?
100.
Hmm. Any guess, Venkatesh? Mohammed?
To 300 we can apply, but mostly in our projects 10 are used.
Okay.
Maximum 10 we can use.
So no, not a cluster, not clusters. Cluster key. I'm
Oh,
asking about
clusters.
cluster
That's the
key.
key. Okay, okay.
Cluster key. There is no limit to apply. But in real time, we apply on maximum only 3 columns. If you apply more than 3 columns, there is no use. There is no use. Okay. So, so today we're going to see about warehouse. Okay, how to create warehouse. So we want to apply not only for developer side, we want to work admin side. Who already work with like Oracle DBA. Okay, for different things. If you want to apply for admin, so more concentrate on this. Okay, so by default we have warehouse right here, complete warehouse system. So, so so by default we have complete warehouse. This is system stable notebook warehouse. Okay, so in real time we can create. We need to create our own warehouse. Okay. So you can see scroll down here left side. You can see compute. Okay, so, and here you can see warehouses. So click on that. So by default, we have these two warehouses. These are both are suspended. Now click on these place warehouse. So I'm giving the warehouse name. So dev health, health okay. Dev healthcare warehouse. WH means warehouse. Dev healthcare warehouse. Okay. So in when Snowflake started, we have only standard and so Snowpark optimized. Now we have so these kind of warehouses. Okay, interactive and Snowpark optimized standard Gen 1 and standard Gen 2. Here Snowpark optimized for doing for Snowflake Cortex AI working with AML. They go with Snowpath optimized, and now these updated to standard Gen 2. We can use it our current project. Okay, we can use, or you can go with standard Gen 1. Okay, so we can go with interactive. So go with standard Gen 2. Okay, choose this one, and warehouse size. So this is the warehouse size, like X small, medium, large, X large, 2X large, 3X large, and 4X large. Okay. So these are the warehouse sizes. Okay. Think like remember like small, medium, large. Okay, small, medium, large. So before small we have X small, after large you have X, 2X, 3X, 4X large. Okay, so totally 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 warehouse sizes we have. Okay, you can see drop button. Okay, X small to 4X large. So remember like small, medium, large, before small, X small, after large up to 4X large. Okay, so I'm given warehouse name Dev Healthcare warehouse. So I'm choosing standard Gen 2, and I'm choosing here medium warehouse. Okay, medium warehouse I'm choosing. Okay, and I can go with small warehouse also. So we go with small because of in starting we need to use only small. We use medium, it will take more cost. Why? Because of your small $1, $2, $3, $4, $5, $6, $7, $8. So it's going to be if you go higher warehouse, it's going to be higher cost. Okay. So check here advanced. Okay, sorry, this is $1, $2. Okay, again 4. Okay, $4, then 8. Okay, then 16, 32, 64, $128 for 4X large, $128. So 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, 128. Okay, so advanced options. Okay, we have auto resume and auto suspend. So automatically resumes the warehouse when any statement that requires a warehouse is submitted. It means if you are running any query, it's going to resume. Okay, and auto suspend automatically suspend the warehouse if it is inactive for the specific period of time. So I'm working as a Snowflake developer. So I don't have work up to 30 minutes. So if still the warehouse is active, we need to pay for, right? So that's why what I do, auto suspend. I'll keep suspend after 5 minutes, 300 seconds. I will give here. It means if I'm not using that warehouse, I'm not running any queries, I'm not loading any data, I'm not doing any transformations. Okay, I'm not writing queries. Okay, on the database. Okay, in that whereas I'm not writing any queries. So by default after 5 minutes, if we are not doing any work, if the whereas going to suspend, it's going to idle mode. Okay, but auto resume when I started writing query and running query, like select star from table name. Okay, select matches on table name. I've started querying, then by default automatically it's going to auto resume. That is these auto resume, auto suspend, these are to save the cost. Even if you well, you don't have work half an hour, still if the warehouse is active, we need to pay for that, right? We need to pay for that. That's why we have suspend if you are not running up to 5 minutes. So the warehouse is going to suspend after 5 minutes. Whenever you start writing the queries, it's going to be like active the warehouse. It's going to active, it's going to reach. Okay, this is the auto resume and auto suspend. And we have multi-cluster warehouse. Multi-cluster, so warehouse. Okay, minimum cluster 1, maximum clusters 2. Okay, so I will explain these. Warehouse, it is complete engine. Okay, complete engine like we can call virtual warehouse. Set of multiple nodes. Okay, multiple nodes. We call like set of multiple okay, having okay RAM, SSD, CPU, memory. So these things. So it is works like engine. It works like engine. It comes different sizes. Okay, having power different power sources. Here we will explain. So whereas if we cluster here, okay, multi-cluster warehouse. So warehouse, okay, this is like a single cluster, single cluster warehouse and multi-cluster warehouse. Cluster, it is like having more than one cluster. What is cluster? Cluster is having a set of nodes. So you have like bike, car, so anything. So you have gear, right? Gear in that bike or in vehicles. You have gear, right? Suppose when you start the vehicle, we go with the first gear. Okay. So if you want to go some more speed, you change gear to second gear. If you want to go like third gear, and if you want to go fourth, and if you want to go high speed, fifth, and if you want to go more high speed, you go to sixth, right? You're going to change the gear, right? So like that, if you want to work your warehouse very fast, you need to do more compute, then we add the clusters. Then we need to add clusters. Okay, adding the clusters. So adding the cluster, okay, you can add one, two, two, two to three. Okay, if you want to go. So if there is no need, okay, can remove the clusters. So remove the clusters. Okay, adding the clusters. Okay, and remove the clusters what you have added. Okay, suppose you have 10, you can remove okay one cluster and 8 and 7 like that. Like that one here like that up to what how many clusters we can add up to 10. So this is started. So the Snowflake certification exam question. So how many clusters you can apply in warehouse? 1 to 8. So what is the maximum cluster you can apply in warehouse? So 10 cluster. Okay, what is the minimum cluster need for to work warehouse? Say one cluster. Like well, cluster nothing but if you want to increase the power, if you want to go speed, you are change the gear 1, 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 like that. That is if you want to work the warehouse very quick and fast, need to do more compute, then we need to add the clusters. We need to add the clusters. Okay, so this is a multi-cluster. Well, okay, here suppose so maximum. Okay, it's showing okay maximum clusters cannot exceed 300. Okay, so Snowflake every time have the updates. Snowflake every time has the updates. See, I'm changing here to 4x large and Snowflake optimizer. If I change to here 100 gen, so there is no different. Okay, every these standard having the these clusters, but so every time Snowflake going to have the updates. So basically in real time we have only 1 to 10 clusters only, remember. So minimum cluster, this is mandatory 1, maximum clusters 10. But now Snowflake is updated to 300 cluster, but we don't use 300 clusters. So why, I will explain. Okay, so if you try to give 301, so maximum clusters cannot be exit 300. Okay, only up to 300 we can give, but we give only up to 10. So why we not give up to 300 means, so here, so I'm using X small warehouse. I'm using one cluster. So I need to pay $1. Okay. Now I'm increasing clusters, same X small warehouse. So I'm going to use 10 clusters. I need to pay here $10. So if I add the cluster, I need to pay for more, right? I need to pay for more. So if I use one cluster, I need to pay for $1. If I use 10 cluster, I need to pay for $10. So there is 300. So it is a Snowflake update. So as of now, using 300 clusters and paying $300. Okay, so not required. If there is really required, then we can increase, and it's only updated. Okay, it's only updated in 2025 in March. Okay, in March, the starting year. Okay, in Jan to March, it's updated. Okay, if it is really need, we can add. Suppose if they are working with Snowflake at Excel, they are doing data processing. So in that scenario, they can use. But so I have not seen who have applied up to 300 clusters. Okay, and do not use. We can apply more than 10 clusters. Okay, it's only updated feature. So no need to pay 300 cluster. No need to use 300 cluster, because of this is up to 10 clusters is very high, but it's updated, but no need to pay for $300 using 300 clusters. Okay, just go with up to 10. So this is a standard one. If they ask how many clusters you are in the warehouse, in the your project, current project you are for warehouse, how many clusters you are, maximum cluster you have, you, okay, you have used maximum means only 10 clusters. Okay, do not go with more than 10 clusters. In my current project, present now also in projects, they are using only 1 to 10 clusters only. So always stick with, we are using only 1 to 10 clusters. That is updated one. Okay, so this is minimum clusters 1 and maximum clusters 10. Okay, so now I will explain here in xmall. Okay, I'm using $1. If I add the cluster, it going to $10. Okay, now small warehouse here, need to pay for one cluster. Okay, $2. Okay, and if I add, if I use two clusters, I need to pay for $4. $4. Okay, so like that, if you go 10 $20. Okay, and if you go large, mean after medium, I'm taking large. After medium, I'm taking the large. So large means you're taking like 4 clusters. Okay, I'm using one cluster. Okay, four. See, cluster, two cluster. One cluster, we need to pay for $4. Okay, then if you go with like you use two clusters, so two clusters, I need to pay here for $8. $8. So, Okay, so for large, if I use 2 clusters, I need to pay for $8. And then again, so I shown right here. So so okay, $1 choose. So $1, $2, 4 and 8 and 16, 32, 64, 128, 128. So now I go with 4x large. Okay, everything is same. So x small, then small, and then comes medium. Medium one, like $4. Okay, uh, medium one clusters. This small, right? Again comes with medium. Okay, medium going to be $4. One cluster that is for $4. Okay, and a mistake. Okay, if I use two clusters, I need to pay for $8. $8. And here this is mistake. This is directly $8. And if I use 2 clusters, I need to pay for $16. Clear? Like that, it's going to increase. For one cluster, $1 x small. If I use 10 cluster, $10. Small, I use one cluster, $2, and two clusters, $4. So medium, one cluster, $4, and two cluster, $8. Large, one cluster, $8, and two cluster, $16. Like that, go with x 1x. Like we have right, x large, 2x large, 3x large, 4x large. Okay, so like that, if we go 4x large. Okay, this is the last one is the 4x large. Okay, last 4x large, it is for one cluster we need to pay $128. And if you use two clusters, so two clusters you need to pay $256. $256. Okay, so if you use 10 clusters, you need to pay, right, 10 clusters. So 10 clusters for two cluster 256. Okay, and 128 into 10, okay, 12,080 and $1,280. Okay, so if you add the clusters, we need to here. Okay, so when we add clusters, and when we remove clusters, okay, I'll explain. Okay, first go with again this one. So this is okay. We are choosing a small warehouse and minimum cluster, maximum cluster. Okay, here see, I am giving 10. So if I minimum clusters 10 and max clusters 8. Okay, if I increase this, sorry, I'm giving 5 clusters, 5 clusters. Okay, if I increase the minimum cluster 6, see, minimum clusters cannot be exceed maximum clusters, and maximum clusters cannot be less than the minimum clusters. Okay, remember. So minimum clusters cannot be exceed the maximum clusters. Maximum clusters cannot be less than the minimum cluster. It means, okay, so minimum clusters not greater than maximum clusters. Okay, remember. Okay, so maximum clusters not less than, so minimum clusters. Remember this. Okay, remember. Okay, minimum clusters not greater than maximum clusters. So maximum clusters not less than the minimum cluster. Okay, so always it should be low and it should be high, and but both can be equal. Both can be equal. You can use 7 and 7. But usually, how we going to use? We going to use minimum clusters 1 and maximum as per the requirement 5 and 6. Okay, and up to 7 as per their cost. Okay, the requirement. If you give the 10 clusters, we need to pay for more, right? So that's why we give a minimum 1 or 5 or 10. But think one thing. Suppose you given maximum clusters 10, it means you are not paying directly 10 cluster. When the warehouse, it's used 10 cluster, in that time you need to pay. Suppose there is no work, you have some work, there is no work, the warehouse, some normal work you doing, there are no multiple users, you are going, you're going to use one cluster. So when data load is increased, then automatically it's going to be increase the cluster. In that time you need to pay. In options we can, okay, we can choose, we can give 10, but if you given 10, it's not going to use directly 10. When it is required, it's going to use it. When it required 10 clusters, it's going to use. Suppose you given 5, when it required 5 clusters, then only it's going to use. If there is no required, it's not going to use the 5 clusters. It's going to work with minimum 1, if required 2, if required 3, required 4, required 5, up to 5. But if you give 10, if you're not given 10 up to only 5, it's going to use the 5 clusters. Okay, but suppose if you give 10, if there is required, it will go to 5 to 6, 7 to 5 to 6, 6 to 7, 7 to 8, 8 to 9, 9 to 10. If there is only required, if there is no work, it's going to work with only one cluster or two cluster as per the requirement. Even start with work only one cluster. If there is need, it's going to add clusters. Scaling policy. Okay, here we give standard values, minimum clusters 1, maximum clusters 1. But scaling policy, we have standard and economy. If you give standard, prevents minimizes queuing of workloads. Okay, there is no queue. Okay, and converts credits by running fully loaded clusters. Okay, conserves credits by running fully loaded clusters. It means like, so we can use standard and economy. Okay, if you use economy, the cluster is going to increase like slowly 1, 2, 3, 4 up to 10. But you have economy, right? So if you use, this is economy. If you use economy, it's going to 1, 2, 3, 4, 10. But suppose if you use standard, okay, standard, what is going to happen? It's going to directly 1 to, it will jump to directly. If there is up to 5, it will 5 or 10. Okay? Or so what is it's required, it's going to jump to directly to add 7 clusters. Okay, 1, 8, it's going to add 7 clusters. Here it's going to add 1 cluster, 1, 1, 1. But here directly it will jump, it will add 7 clusters and 8. So that is standard. So standard, it will take more cost, and economy, like it will take we can manage the cost, the lower. It will take cost, it will take lesser cost, high cost, low cost. But it means economy is going to increase gradually, but standard suddenly it's going to increase. Okay, using the clusters. Remember this point. Economy slowly it is going to quick. That is the scaling policy. If you use economy, it's going to increase adding the cluster gradually, but it will comfortable cost. If you use standard, it's going to add directly. It's going to add many clusters at a time, so it will cost. Okay, that is scaling policy. So we need to use economy. We need to save the cost. And this is minimum clusters, maximum clusters. Okay, scaling factor. So it means how many see, there is no limit. So for one for one clusters, so how many queries need to run. Okay, so those things about related to queries. Okay, so query acceleration. So as a later queries with additional flexible computer resources, scale factor. Okay, so this we will discuss when we creating the warehouse. Okay, when we going to, this is with the options we can create the warehouse, but we can type, okay, create warehouse name, okay, warehouse type, okay, clusters, minimum cluster, maximum clusters, okay, auto suspend, auto resume, we can type. Okay, in that time we will discuss about query isolation and scale factor. So it's related to the query, how many queries need to run at a time. Okay, how many queries need to wait. Okay, how many queries run at a time. Okay, this we will discuss when we create. We will type and we will create various. In that time we will discuss. Okay. Now this is minimum clusters and maximum clusters. Okay, here is a scaling plus economy. Okay. Now, so here in Snowflake we have two things. So one is like vertical scale and horizontal scale. Okay, first we will go with vertical scale. So what is vertical scale? Here, X small. Okay, I'm going to change small. Okay, medium. So large. Okay, what I'm doing, I'm increasing the warehouse size, right? I'm increasing the warehouse size. Increasing the warehouse size. Okay, in vertical scaling, there is like scale up. Okay, is increasing the warehouse size. Warehouse size. Okay, increasing the warehouse size. This is scale up. Okay, now three. I'm decreasing the warehouse size. Going to small. I'm going to X small. Okay, I'm going to X small. Large X small. I'm going to X small. This is scale down. Okay, decrease or decreasing warehouse size. Okay, remember scale up is increasing the warehouse size and scale down is decreasing the warehouse size. Okay, so vertical scaling. So what is vertical scaling? Vertical scaling is, okay, is increase or decrease warehouse sizes. Warehouse size. Okay, vertical scaling is increase or decrease warehouse size. Okay, increase or decrease. Okay, increase or decrease warehouse size. Okay, vertical scaling is increase or decreasing warehouse size. Okay, that is like increasing warehouse size is scale up, decreasing the warehouse size is scale down. Vertical scaling is increase or decreasing warehouse size. Scale up is increase the warehouse size. Scale down is increase the warehouse size. So this is vertical scaling. Okay, here increasing and decreasing. And what is horizontal scaling? Here see. Go to here. One clusters. Okay, so now I'm adding one cluster. I'm adding one more cluster. I'm adding one more cluster like that. Five like that. Six like that. Six like that. So I'm adding the clusters. So this is we can call scale out. Scale out, adding the clusters. Scale out is adding the clusters. Okay, so then removing the clusters. 9, 8, okay, 5, 2, 1. We can use 0 and 1. Okay, we have 10 and change it to 9. Okay, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. I'm removing the clusters. So now one cluster. Minimum one, maximum one. Okay, so this is scale in. Remove the clusters. Leave the cluster. Okay, clear, right? So adding the clusters, scale out, scale in. Remove the cluster. Remember, so don't confuse. What horizontal scaling is adding and removing the clusters. Okay, horizontal scaling is adding and removing the clusters. Scale out, adding the cluster. Scale out, adding the cluster. Scale in, remove the clusters. Okay, remember, don't confuse about this. Okay, vertical scaling is related to the warehouse size. Horizontal scaling is related to the clusters. Okay, clusters adding and removing cluster. Okay, so vertical scaling is increase the decrease of warehouse size. Horizontal scaling is adding and removing the clusters. So scale up is increase the warehouse size. Scale down is decrease the warehouse size. Scale out is adding the clusters and the scale in is removing the clusters. Okay, here one thing, rejoin with the same link. We will continue the class. Rejoin with the same link. Continue the class. So here we have vertical scaling and horizontal scaling. But so when we use these, okay, so queries first here, okay, we go with the vertical scaling. Okay, queries are slower when we have query running slow. Then okay, we go with the scale up. Okay, then complex joins we have any complex joins. Okay, complex joins we have, and we are doing aggregations on data, and large scans when we query the when if you're running any query, it's going to scan the large scan have the large scans. So then heavy transformation we are doing. Okay, and ETL and dbt models we are running. Okay, so these going we need to increase the size, so it's going to use the scale up and example. Okay, suppose if you dbt job you're going to write dbt jobs, we have right dbt jobs whenever if you use a small warehouse dbt job, so it will take 30 minutes 30 minutes. But in the time, so if you use small warehouse, it will take small warehouse 30 minutes. Okay? And same job, same dbt job, okay, it will take 10 minutes if you use scale up, and if you increase the warehouse size to medium. Okay, so medium size, it will take 10 minutes. 10 minutes, right? Medium warehouse. So this is in this scenario. Okay, so when we are doing working with the dbt, we are doing the dbt job, it will take 30 minutes in the small warehouse. But if you increase the warehouse size, okay, medium, it will take only 10 minutes. This is our vertical scaling. Okay, increasing means like uh, vertical scaling. Okay, okay, like may more power, okay, more per node. Okay, more per node. It means it's going to use the more power per node. Okay, per node. Okay, remember vertical scaling, more power per node. This is the vertical scaling. Okay, what is node? Node is nothing but this is RAM, SSD, those things we can call node. Okay, then when we need to reduce the size. Okay, so queries are lightweight. Okay, it means not heavy queries, lightweight and uh, low usage. In night time there is low usage. Okay, so nighttime low usage, in that time we're going to use, we need to use the scale down. Okay, and the cost optimization. So cost optimization, okay, if you use like higher big warehouse, it will take more cost. If you use a medium and large, it will take high cost. To cost optimization, so required, right, cost of goods required. For that we're going to scale down. Okay, scale down. And then example, suppose we have like dashboards. So we have dashboards reporting to team they're going to work with, right? So in dashboard queries, okay, run fast to medium. Okay, when we move small to when they're running fast on medium warehouse. On medium they can run fast. But so then in the time we need to move to small, so to save the cost. So okay, in dashboards queries are running fast on medium warehouse size, so in that time we need to move to the small warehouse to save the cost. Okay, this is, so this is our scale down. Okay, scale down, increasing scale up, decreasing scale down. Okay, they use increase decrease for vertical scaling, but horizontal scaling we need to use adding and removing. Okay, so when we need to add the clusters. Okay, add the cluster. Okay, when concurrency problem, like many users. So not only we, right, in team we're going to have the 8 to 12 member users and other team like business users. Some, so business users, there are other users, right? So like Power BI team, okay, different team, Power BI team, puts upon Power BI team and different team, right? So they're going to work at a time, multiple users are going to work. So in that scenario, many users in the warehouse, in the warehouse. So in that scenario, we need to add the clusters. So they are using the same warehouse simultaneously. Okay? Simultaneously. So in the time we need to add the clusters. So if queries are queue, okay, queue, there are 20 queries are running. So other queries, maybe there are 30 queries, but only in the time only 20 queries are running. So in that time there are in waiting state, then we need to add, because of here one cluster can, okay, the as we need to define one cluster runs only, one cluster runs only 10 queries, 10 queries. So two clusters runs 20 queries, two cluster 20 queries, but we have 30 queries, right? Then we need to add one clusters, we need to add one cluster. So in that, okay, so when any queries are queued, we need to increase. So and BI tools like Power BI, Tableau with many users, okay, we need to use for the real-time dashboards. We need to add the clusters. Then come to example, suppose there are 50 users, okay, users are running queries, queue builds, then they the queries are in queue. In that time we need to use one, we need to add the, go to one cluster to three clusters, we need to add the clusters. Then query is going to in parallel, query is going to run in parallel. Okay, so this is like horizontal scaling. So here more nodes were parallel, more use, more nodes for parallel users. Okay, then when to remove the clusters, this is adding, right? Okay, so reduce, okay, reduce, or we can call reduce or remove cluster. When we need to remove the cluster, we need to do the clusters. So less concurrent users, there are less users, and no query queue, no query queue, okay, here QE, no query queue, and cost optimization, okay, cost optimization, and off peak hours, there is no, okay, there is no work, okay, of peak hours, we need to remove the clusters. Okay, an example, daytime or three clusters, and nighttime reduce, uh, reduce to one cluster. Nighttime we don't have that much work. So this is the scale in. Okay, so remember, so warehouse size is for query performance. Okay, when the query is running slow, we need to increase the warehouse size. And clusters concurrency handling, so when there are multiple users are working. Okay, and one more thing, if the data loading is slow and the data unloading is slow, data loading slow and transformation is slow, okay, like aggregation functions, okay, and we have different, right, we discussed here. Okay, query running slow, complex chains, aggregation function, large scans, when we need to increase the warehouse size. Even data is loading slow if the query running slow. Okay, these things remember. Okay, scenario. Okay, query slow, increase the size. Query fast but costly, decrease size. Remember, query running slow, increase the size. Query running fast but costly, decrease the size. Query is waiting queue, add clusters. No queue, no queue, low usage, remove the clusters. Okay, so so like real time scenario is like ETL batch night time. So large warehouse, one clusters. ETL batch the night time, large warehouse, one clusters. Morning dashboards, medium warehouse, three clusters. And a late night small warehouse, one cluster. Why in ETL batch they're doing the work with the large warehouse at the one cluster only? At the night time only one cluster, large warehouse. Because if you use more clusters, large warehouse we need to pay like $8, right? X small medium large $8. Using one cluster is enough. If you use two clusters, you need to pay $16. So that's why large warehouse one cluster at the night time ETL batch. So manning dashboard, medium warehouse, you can use three clusters. Okay, the late night small warehouse one cluster is enough. Okay, remember this. Okay, so in interview, how they will ask the question. Okay, so what you do? Okay, query running slow. Okay, what you do? What do you do? Like data loading slow. Okay, what you do when there are 100 users are working or multiple, okay, and multiple users are working, what you do? Okay, and what is difference between scale up and scale out? They go, don't confuse. Okay, scale up is related to the vertical scaling, increasing the warehouse size. Scale out is related to the horizontal scaling, adding the clusters. And again, so what is difference between? Okay, so yeah, okay, so this is scale down and scaling. Okay, they ask different ways. Okay, don't worry, scale down, decrease the warehouse size. Scaling, remove the clusters. Okay, adding the cluster, remove the cluster. Okay, these types of question they're going to ask in interview. What you will do if the code is running slow, data loading slow. Okay, and how you design your warehouse. We have when you are loading data from to Snowflake. So there are different ways. By default, step by step, we go with, right. So you will get one idea. Okay, remember as of now, what you do, your query running slow. Okay, so data loading slow, 100 users are working. Okay, multiple users are working. And what is that users are working or multiple users are working, and what is the difference between scale up and scale out? What is the difference between scale down and scaling? So remember these points. Okay, so now we go to here, and this is optionally with the Snowflake option we are creating a warehouse. Then if you create, just to create the warehouse. Okay, it's handy. Okay, create warehouse. So warehouse is created, Dev Healthcare warehouse. Then go to, this is always remember, if you want to go to worksheet, click on home button. If you want to go to new worksheet, you can tap worksheet here. Okay, so and choose warehouse here. Okay, so compute warehouse, system streamlit, notebook warehouse, and we create dev healthcare. Compute warehouse, dev healthcare, streamlit. So we created dev health, change to warehouse. Okay, choose database, dev health db, and dev schema. Okay, so now what we do, I think everybody created the Snowflake account. Okay, you what you do, just create Snowflake account, create a dev healthcare warehouse and database schema, and explain, right, load data, please create file. Okay, I will share the zip file today. Okay, then load it. Okay, so as of now, anybody having doubts regarding this session? Mohammed, Oti, Fanindra, Sneha, Wasudha.
Can we do practical for this one? Scaling up, scaling down the query. Do you have any query regarding that one?
Query practical we can do. Okay, what you do, just go with the sample data. Okay, take sample data. Here we have a large values of data. Okay,
Okay.
take TPCH7. Try to use small X small warehouse and use one cluster. Then run the query. and after use, okay, but same query don't run, it's going to use that result capture, but use
Okay.
different filter condition, and now increase the cluster and use the large variables, then you can see the difference. Okay, so no worries, we will do manually tomorrow. Okay,
Okay, manually do. Sure, sure.
okay,
Fine.
we will apply that, then we will.
Okay.
Okay, okay.
We'll get an idea regarding that one.
Yes, yes, we'll get idea. We'll get
Okay.
it. Okay. So then also we're going to type and we'll create the variable. There are so many things we need to apply. Tomorrow
Okay.
we'll complete this concept. Thank you guys. Have a great. If you have any doubt, you can ping me. So.